NFL free agency has essentially concluded, and a lot of huge moves have occurred that have just impacted the league in a variety of ways. Much more changes happened than I predicted, and I really didn't have the greatest of predictions looking back on it, but whatever. This offseason was insane. Now today I'm going to be reviewing every single NFL team's offseason thus far. So every notable signing, cut, and trade will be discussed in some form throughout this video. Now to clarify, I am going to be considering what each team had to work with going into the offseason. So let's say a team that didn't have much cap space didn't sign a top tier free agent. I'm not going to knock them for it because they physically could not do it without getting rid of key pieces. So before I get to each team, I'm quickly going to elaborate on my grading scale. The A range means I essentially loved everything that the team did. The B range means I liked mostly everything, though there might be some duds in there, but overall I liked it. The C range, it means that it was fine, not good, not bad, just pretty meh. It should be like no-brainer moves that are in there also. This is an average grade. It's not bad, it's not good. It just means they were okay. The D range means I disliked everything, and there might be some good in there, but overall it was not a good sign from me. And getting an F means that I just hated everything. That's pretty explainable. Hopefully that clears up any confusion you may have with the grades that I give out. I'm not the type to just hand out A pluses and Fs like crazy. I'm going to critique everything in some way. So I hope you understand what I'm getting at, but with all that being said, let's just get right into these grades because this is going to be a long video. So sit back, relax, get some popcorn, get a snack, whatever works for you. Just enjoy what I have to say. The Dallas Cowboys. Okay, so I'm just going to start off with this. How do you let Amari Cooper get to the open market? Like, that was so risky because you're probably going to pay Dak to be the highest paid quarterback in the NFL. So why not just do it anyways beforehand, even though I don't think he's worth that contract, but they're probably going to end up doing it anyways. So they tagged Dak, which is whatever, makes sense. And then they re-signed Amari for market value, which makes sense. It wasn't a great value. It wasn't an overpay. I like the contract. But let's talk about everything else. So, they lost Byron Jones. Their cornerback position is not good. It's a lot of bodies, and I just don't think it's that elite. I think Byron Jones, even though he didn't have interception numbers or anything like that, he's one of the best corners in the NFL, and he got paid like it, rightfully so. So losing him, your secondary is not good. So in the draft, you probably have to go replace that. And this Cowboys roster now has a lot more holes than it did last year. I think last year was your chance to make something happen, but you just fell apart on yourself. You know, Travis Frederick retired, which I don't blame them for. That sucks. He was fantastic, and you might have to draft someone like Cesar Ruiz, Tyler Biadasz, Lloyd Cushenberry. You know, it just sucks. You have one of the best offensive lines in the NFL, and now you lose a key part of that. They also lost Robert Quinn, which I'm not going to say they made a bad choice by letting him walk because, man, he got paid. And I don't blame them for letting him go on that contract because, wow. Same with Randall Cobb. Randall Cobb got paid like hell by the Texans. Now let's talk about what they added. They added Gerald McCoy, which is a decent signing. He's not nearly as good as he once was, but decent signing. Dontari Poe is all right. Anthony Brown isn't a nothing. Alden Smith can possibly fill that need at the edge, but we honestly have no idea what he is. He hasn't played since like 2016, 15, something like that. It's such a Cowboys signing. And then they brought in Greg Zuerlein, who didn't have that great of a year last year, but it's a kicker competition. They had a lot of kicking problems ever since Dan Bailey left. Overall, I just didn't like what the Cowboys did. Their job was mostly retaining people that they had. And, I mean, they brought back Dak and Amari, but those are just no-brainers, and they got them at what they were supposed to get. But I think tagging Dak just hurts them. It hurts them a lot. So I'm giving them a C-. On to the Giants. Gettleman, what are you doing? So I'll start with the good, I guess. James Bradbury, yeah, that's a good market value signing. I just kind of question it because of how much you invested in corner last year. You invested a lot. And I mean like 3 draft picks, 3rd rounder for Sam Beal. That's a lot. But I know you moved Julian Love to safety, so I get it. James Bradbury got paid pretty much what I guessed he would get paid, so I don't hate it. But you're basically out of the Okudah talks, which you never should have been in. But let's talk about their other moves. Blake Martinez. What? Why? I predicted this from a mile away. Blake Martinez is the most overrated linebacker in the NFL. They paid him like he's a number 1. I just don't know what to say. They paid him 3 years, $30 million. $10 million per year for Blake Martinez. That's as Gettleman as it gets. They probably still will end up with Isaiah Simmons, who I love. Blake Martinez just speaks for itself. The Kyler Fackrell signing's fine. It's just a depth edge rusher. Deion Lewis is fine. He'll back up Saquon Barkley. They cut Alec Ogletree, but then replaced him with another just tackling linebacker who does nothing else. And they overpaid him too. Then let's talk about Leonard Williams. They franchise tagged him, which is hilarious because they overpaid for him when they traded for him, and they ended up having to franchise tag him because Leonard Williams knows he has all the leverage in these talks, and the Giants are going to have to pay him whatever he wants, and that's just hysterical to me. So the Giants, they didn't do anything that great. I mean, the James Bradbury signing was all right. So I'm just going to give him D+, something like that. It's just, Gettleman, man. What are you doing? Let's talk about some good now. The Eagles, man. Trading for Darius Slay. I saw it. I knew it was going to happen. And they did it. And it was a great trade for them. They also picked up Nikhil Roby-Coleman for nothing. And I love that pickup. Their secondary is completely revitalized now. They don't need to go corner in the first round, in my opinion. They need to go wide receiver now. Because who's Carson Wentz throwing the ball to now? I don't know. But this wide receiver class is so good. You can just punt on corner for this first round. They also got Javon Hargrave, which is unbelievable. That defensive front is just disgusting. They ended up losing Jason Peters, Ronald Darby, Vaitai, Jenkins, Jernigan, Howard. None of those are really that big of a deal to me. I think losing Jernigan for the price that he got, but you got Hargrave, so that's not a big deal to me. Vaitai is not a big deal to lose because, he got paid. I just wish they somehow managed to make the Malcolm Jenkins thing work out. I think if they managed to make that work out, their secondary would be in a very good spot right now because Jalen Mills and Will Parks as your safeties are, I don't know about that. So I'm going to give the Eagles an A-. Really like what they did. Extending Darius Slay was a no-brainer. Trading for him was also a no-brainer. And he's one of the best corners in the NFL. And you had a terrible secondary last year. You've pretty much made up for that by also completely overhauling the front seven. So when you have a great front that's getting a ton of pressure, and really good corners like Slay and Roby Coleman, you're bound to make tons of plays, even if you don't have the best safeties or linebackers. I really, really, really like what the Eagles did. And Howie Roseman always kills it in free agency and with trades. And let's just see how he does in the draft, because he doesn't really have a scouting background. So we'll see how that goes for him. Hopefully they can give Wentz some sort of support. Washington Redskins. They had a very interesting offseason. They traded Dunbar for a fifth, which I said already was a terrible trade for them. Trading for Kyle Allen was, I get it. It basically negates the need for a quarterback in the draft. Dwayne Haskins is pretty safe now. They're not going to take Tua. They're probably going to take Chase Young unless they get a trade down. None of their other additions are that noteworthy. I guess Kendall Fuller is a solid signing. He's coming back to Washington, which is kind of surprising. He's on a pretty solid deal. So I don't hate that. But let's just talk about the Trent Williams thing, because how they've handled the Trent Williams situation is kind of whack. It's really saddening to see how it's gone down, from the ownership to the old general manager. It just seems like Trent Williams is just so done. And they're going to trade him, and it's going to be for a third round pick probably on draft day. It's just disappointing to see. And then they tagged Brandon Scherff, which was a no-brainer. Brandon Scherff is awesome. He's a great guard, and it was a no-brainer to me. So this Redskins offseason was kind of bland. Apparently they offered Amari Cooper a boatload of money, more than the Cowboys offered him, but they ended up not getting him. So the Redskins I'll give them a C-, because I think that Dunbar trade was bad, but the Kendall Fuller signing is all right. I think the Darby signing is pretty decent. The Kyle Allen trade I think that was a decent trade, because you're reuniting him with Ron Rivera. And the Brandon Scherff tag was just a no-brainer for me. So if they convince Trent Williams to stay around, that is fantastic, and I would up their grade if that was a thing, if I could. But I don't think he'll be on this team in 2020. So, and it's not sounding like he will. So let's move on to the Bills, and another team that just did so well. First, you did the Stephon Diggs trade, and that was as perfect of a trade as you could have made. I think getting that bona fide number one wide receiver is a great idea for this team to make. Josh Allen needs that number one guy, and Diggs wasn't happy in Minnesota. He's on a very good contract, and trading your first round pick for him and just some mid to late rounders that honestly you don't care that much about makes sense to me. I'd do that trade too in a heartbeat. So great job by them getting him. They signed Mario Addison. I think it was a bit of an overpay, but I mean, it's an edge depth, so he's not bad, but he's not anything special in my mind. But Quentin Jefferson, for the deal that they got him for, is a steal. This defensive line that they've put together this offseason is very good for a rebound of losing Jordan Phillips and Shaq Lawson. Arguably, it's better. That's just my say. They also brought in Vernon Butler, which very solid addition. They brought in Josh Norman. I mean, okay, he's way past his prime from Carolina, but this is the Buffalo Panthers. I mean, Sean McDermott, he's got all these guys from Carolina coming in, so it makes sense to me. They also brought in Darrell Williams to be a swing offensive lineman, so I mean, I like that move for them too. They ended up losing Shaq Lawson, Jordan Phillips, but that honestly doesn't make a difference to me, because they ended up bringing in really good defensive line talent to make up for that. And they also extended Quentin Spain and Jordan Poyer for really good contracts. So I loved both of those moves too. You know, the Bills just did a great job overall, and I think they are clearly the favorite in the AFC East. And I think this team I think they're going to be around 11-5 if they have a really good draft, because this team's holes, there's really none. I think if they take someone like, if they can manage to get someone like Trevon Diggs in the second round, bro, watch out for the Bills. They are getting an A- from me. I just think they kind of overpaid a little bit for Addison and Norman and Butler, but overall, I loved pretty much most of what they did. Well, now let's talk about a team that actually did very well, in my opinion. That's the Miami Dolphins. Miami had a lot of money to spend, and I mean a lot. And they spent it, for the most part, very well. All their pickups were very, very solid. Byron Jones, paid him top money. Awesome. Him and Xavier Howard are going to be a great corner duo. Probably the best in the NFL, if something's escaping my mind. Love it. Kyle Van Noy, familiar with Brian Flores. Love it. Shaq Lawson on the end, alongside Emmanuel Ogbah. I mean, Shaq Lawson is a little overpaid, but those two together, for the prices they got and how much money they had, I like it. I thought they were going to try and get Clowney, but it sounds like Clowney declined a deal from them, so they ended up signing Lawson. So I guess they're out of the Clowney sweepstakes. And Jordan Howard, like a 1 year, $5 million deal. I mean, whatever. You can get a guy who's like in the mid rounds that's about the same quality as him. But I mean, you had so much money to spend, whatever. It's just the one deal that I hate is Eric Flowers. I hate that contract. 3 years, 30. He's not that good. You paid that much for him. I kind of wish that you invested a little more into your offensive line. Because if you're expecting to have Tua Tagovailoa, which it sounds like it's the plan, you need to fix that offensive line. And I don't think having a lot of rookies and second-year guys is a good idea. Because it's sounding like you're going to take Tua and then you're going to take a tackle or an interior guy in the first. Just signing Flowers is kind of iffy to me. I kind of wish they paid Conklin that deal, and they could have paid him more. Because Conklin got a pretty affordable contract and could have got Balaga for his contract. And I know a lot of mediocre linemen were getting really overpaid contracts, but the really good ones got really good contracts for what they're worth. Balaga and Conklin got nice deals. You easily could have gotten them. Your defense is good now. Maybe you need like a safety because you lost Rashad Jones and you don't have Minka anymore. So maybe you could take someone like Xavier McKinney or something. But this draft should be offense heavy. It's what it's probably going to be. It's offensive line, a running back, and your quarterback of the future. I like what Miami did. I'm going to give them a B+. You very much invested in the defense, so let's see how you invest in the offense now. On to the Patriots. Man, you lost Tom Brady. That's an automatic bad offseason. You also lost Kyle Van Noy, Jamie Collins, who were your linebackers, and they got paid very nicely, and New England never really brings back second contract dudes. They have guys perform very well, and then they go on their ways. They get their comp picks. They take guys, they replace them like that, and the guys they use to replace them usually perform exceptionally well. They're the best in the business at doing that, alongside the Baltimore Ravens. They re-signed Devin McCourtney for a very good contract. I really liked that deal for them. And they franchise tagged Joe Thuney, which I liked. Joe Thuney is very good. I thought he was going to end up in Miami, but they managed to bring him back. They also added Adrian Phillips, which I really liked that signing. They got him for like nothing. They got Brian Hoyer back. So make of that as you will. It's going to be the Hoyer versus Stidham competition. I ultimately think Stidham is going to win that job. Unless they decide to take a quarterback in the draft, which I don't think they will. I think they're going to roll with Stidham for 2020. And then see how well they play. And then we'll see them possibly be more involved in the quarterback carousel next year. I don't think they're going to sign someone like Cam or anything like that. Or Jameis or anything like that. But man, you lost Tom Brady. Your team significantly gets worse because of that. Tom Brady is the GOAT. You lost him. You just failed him as a franchise. You didn't bring enough to him last year. His offensive line wasn't that good. His receiving group was not good at all. And the only thing that was really carrying that team was the defense. You let him down, and it was very evident last year. So you're getting a D+. It just seemed like they just let him go. It was like, we'll bring you back, but if you want to go, we're not going to stop you. I got to see how this draft goes for them to make a judgment on if they'll make the playoffs or not. But I don't know, man. The Patriots just took a huge hit. The Jets. The Jets had a very similar offseason to the Giants, where I think they overpaid for mediocre talent. On paper, they have gotten better, I guess. They overpaid like crazy for George Fant, who's a bona fide swing offensive lineman, and he's arguably a tight end, just a pure blocking tight end. They better hope that one of those tackles falls to them at 11, because Chuma Edoga and George Fant as your tackles isn't a great idea. I mean, Chuma Edoga on the right side is okay, but you better hope that Andrew Thomas is there at 11, because Andrew Thomas would be great on the left side, because Chuma Edoga, when he played on the left side, he was bad, and you don't want him on that left side. And if you're drafting Andrew Thomas at 11, Andrew Thomas has to be the starter. So where's George Fant going to go? You're paying him then $10 million to be your swing offensive lineman, which is insane. So would you start him at right tackle? But I think Chuma Edoga's better at right tackle than George Fant. So I don't know what's going on there. They could have easily gotten on Brian Bulaga. I thought they were going to be in on Conklin, but I guess not. They also got Connor McGovern, which is this all right pickup. I think that was solid. They got Pierre Desir, which I actually really like. They got him for like 1 year, $5 or $6 million. Really like that deal. Greg Van Routen, whatever. This is the offensive line pickup. Patrick Onwuaswa. I'm not saying that last name. I never can. I never could. Linebacker depth, they're just going to pair him with CJ Mosley. He's nothing great, though. Brashad Perriman. They got him for like 1 year, $8, or 1 year, $6 with incentives to $8, something like that. They paid him that, but they lost Robbie Anderson for a little more than that. I would have just brought back Robbie Anderson, if I'm being honest, because he's got that connection with Sam Darnold. But I guess Robbie Anderson wanted to play for Matt Rule, which I don't blame him, because New York is kind of a mess right now. But I guess Perriman will fit into that role. But man, the Jets have so many holes still. They added so many offensive line players, and I still think they have a huge need at it. So I'm giving them a D+. You filled them, but they're not permanent fills. The only really permanent fill that they did was Connor McGovern and kind of Pierre Desir, but Pierre Desir is on a 1 year deal. So that's all I can really say on that. Thank you for watching this part of a 4-part series where I'm going to be grading every NFL team's offseason moves thus far. If you haven't already, please like the video down below and subscribe to All Sports Culture on YouTube. We have a lot of things coming in store, including the next mock draft, which is going to include trades, so hopefully you guys stick around to see that. Check out the other parts of this series if you haven't already. Make sure you also follow All Sports Culture on Instagram and all of our other socials at All Sport Culture. My name's been Sam from All Sports Culture, and I'll see you all in the next one.